Good time zone, my guys, gals, and non-binary pals. It is your boy, TempusVision, and we are back at it again with something new, exciting, and hopefully shiny and fun. Let me just adjust my volume here. There we go. And so today I bring you a more story-based Let's Play as opposed to the freeform nature of Rope Tech. We are going to be playing something in Catalyst Game Labs' other tabletop property they acquired from FASA. Still not to be confused with the FAFSA, but that would be the game Shadowrun. Shadowrun is much like other tabletop role-playing games, in so much as you sit around a table with your friends, pretend to be an elf or a dwarf or what have you, throw dice, and generally have fun. Shadowrun does have the dubious honor of being one of the first cyberpunk role-playing game systems. It did merge cyberpunk sort of sci-fi with fantasy in an interesting way. And for those of you playing the home game and who may not know, it is also a direct sequel to another fantasy setting called Earth Dawn, which had multiple novels and also some tabletop game stuff. Catalyst, I believe, has the rights to Earth Dawn, but hasn't done anything with it in favor of Shadowrun. FASA was releasing Earth Dawn content as I remember it, but can't be 100% on that timeline. Either way, we're going to get right into it. Now, typically with games like this, we do spend a decent amount of time in character creation, and that is going to be the first part of this episode. Or the first part, excuse me, that is going to be the first episode. And the reason for that is I want to try to deliver this content in slightly more bite-sized chunks. We're going to aim for shorter episodes, maybe a little more frequent, and we're going to see how that works out. If you guys like what the timing ends up being, let me know in the comments. If you don't like it and would prefer longer episodes, please also feel free to let me know that. That being said, let's go ahead and get started. So we can see here it does give us the option to just run the base content. As you can see, this game is also made by Harebrained Schemes, the same people who brought us Battletech in 2018. We do also have a couple of mods installed. Those are not going to be something that we mess around with right now. We are just going to run the core campaign, and we are going to, I think we'll run it on, normal, the way the game's intended to be played. We're not going to crank it up to super hard or anything like that. And now we're going to be in character creation. Statistically, there are no differences between males and females. Always good, and we get to choose what race, or the term used in the tabletop game now is meta-type. You can be a human. Humans were the only race on Earth until the Awakening in 2012. Yes, the Mayan calendar is a significant portion of that. And now they're just kind of considered normal. Typically they get bonuses to edge, which is sort of like luck, but since that's not represented in this game, they get a benefit to their XP. Elves are the most fortunate metahumans because they're attractive and socially acceptable. They have high dexterity, and they're usually more apt at magic. Dwarves are short, stout, tough, a little slow, but they have high willpower, which also makes them good for spellcasters. Orcs are your typical, go fast, punch things kind of characters. And trolls are big, slow, tough, and hit like absolute freight trains. So, we're actually going to start off as a human. And for our archetypes, we have plenty of things we can be. There are multiple different classes, so to speak. Shadowrun has a free form character generation system where you get to kind of pick and choose what you want, so you can build whatever. You can actually be archetypeless, which is what I'm gonna do. But to go over the archetypes roughly, there's the street samurai, a quote-unquote freelance operative who follows a code of street honor. Typically, this is your combat character, most likely with cybernetic augmentations. A mage is also pretty self-explanatory. They cast spells, things go boom. There are different schools of magic, different traditions of magic. I might go over that in future episodes. We might just talk about Shadowrun stuff. But either way, mage is an option. Deckers are much like the classic and original cyberpunk protagonist, Case from Neuromancer. They use a computer terminal called the Cyberdeck to jack into the Matrix, also known as the internet, circa the Lawnmower Man. You plug yourself in, go into sensory deprivation, and then you're in VR. And I mean, they did all that with a 56K modem. We have to buy expensive headsets and all that. But, you know, that being said, these guys are your hackers. Shamans are spirit summoners. In this particular case, they are like a pet class, except all your pets are temporary because you have to bind and dismiss them. Riggers are the other pet class. They're the technological pet class. They keep drones, which can of course be blown up or modified or rebuilt. Much like Deckers, they use a specialized computer called a rigger control console to control multiple drones and sort of swarm the battlefield with pets. Finally, you have physical adepts, which are they're almost like monks in D&D. They enhance their physical abilities through innate mastery of magic. They don't outwardly cast spells under most circumstances, but what they do is they buff their stats and they develop different superhuman abilities based on how they choose to develop. Now, we are going to go archetypeless because a little bit about me from back in the day. I actually used to head up the character creation and review division on one of the largest Shadowrun communities on the internet. Unfortunately, that Shadowrun community has kind of fallen apart, but either way, I did handle a lot of that. I became intimately familiar with the Shadowrun 5th edition rule set, which is the rule set that was in place when this game came out. And honestly, being in that position, all the jokes about Reddit mods and Discord mods aside, it really having to do that kind of reviewing and that kind of spot checking and dealing with people feeling like they were being unfairly put upon because we were asking them to play by the rules, it really kind of put me in a bad headspace. It almost took me out of the tabletop scene for quite some time. Thankfully, though, I'm back, here to stay. Y'all ain't getting rid of me that easy. And we are going to get into Shadowrun. So, you can see here, the game is definitely a product of its time. It's got graphics, one of the graphics of all time. And one thing I do like is that there's different variants of each player portrait, sort of showing that you can have different styles of upgrades. Like this guy, he's more technological, or this one in particular, he's just got some tattoos and a little feather in his hair. But over here, he's got a data jack and cyber eyes. This guy just looks like Vin Diesel. Let's pick a character here. There's got to be something cool. I do like this guy. This guy looks cool. And I do like that he's got like sideburns. Also super sick. This guy looks like a typical punk rock gang thug man. Pretty apropos for both Cyberpunk 2077 and Shadowrun. And we can customize our character model in addition to our portrait. So we're going to stick to the mohawk hairstyle. We're actually going to change the color, though, because I like a nice green. Just make sure there's no other shades of green. We're not going to mess with a beard. And we can continue to messing with our stats, which are significantly more important than how we look. Karma represents your XP. That's a thing in Shadowrun. Doing altruistic acts and doing things that directly go against the will of the corporations and the will of dragons, which, yes, dragons are a thing. You know, the term in the tabletop game is working for the people. You know, doing things like mutual aid, helping out in your community. That's rewarded with XP bonuses. You accrue good karma. So doing things of that nature accumulates your XP. And honestly, if real life worked like that, I think we'd all be better off. But that being said, karma is used to improve your attributes and skills. Attributes and skills can be increased by spending karma equal to the next increment of that rating. That's a big departure from the tabletop game, where typically it's your next rank times a certain karma modifier. But for terms of putting this into a PC game and making it eminently playable right off the bat, I think this is a good start. So here are all of our stats. Body is basically your toughness. Quickness can be compared to dexterity. Then you have sub-skills underneath that. Strength is fairly self-explanatory, melee and throwing weapons, and determines how far you can throw grenades. The ability to yeet things can never be understated in any game. Shadowrun, Baldur's Gate, D&D proper, Divinity Original Sin 2, which may or may not be making an appearance on this channel sometime in the future. If any game gives you an opportunity to throw shit at somebody, throwing shit is probably a good idea. You've got your close combat skill, which then separates into melee weapon specialty and unarmed specialty, throwing weapons. Intelligence is primarily used by decking and rigging. It's always useful to have intelligence, because there are going to be stat checks throughout the game. However, if you're not going to build into being a decker or a rigger, you don't really need any of the sub-skills. Willpower is typically for spellcasting in this game. It's obviously broken out into separate stats in the tabletop, but again, to abstract it for a PC game, this is excellent. You can see you've got spellcasting, which is for mages, and chi casting, which is for physical adepts. Charisma, for talking to people, summoning spirits, and yeah, conjuring spells. It's specific spells. But in this particular instance, we're actually going to make not so much a street samurai as what I like to call a legwork character. Someone who's passably tough, but not necessarily a expert at combat, and someone who's passably smart, but not necessarily like a super genius. Now, the reason we want Biotech 2, it does allow us to see enemy hit points. Very, very useful. Being able to see how close an enemy is to death allows you to basically track targets, and calculate your... How do I put it? You want to calculate your target priorities. You got to know who you're going to shoot at. We're going to increase our willpower a little bit. We definitely need to increase charisma, and this is why. In the tabletop game, etiquette is a separate skill you have to learn, but in this, it's a bonus that comes with charisma. Etiquette being about knowing how to behave in specific situations. Choosing etiquette gives you extra dialogue choices. That's basically what it boils down to. You get extra dialogue choices with certain people based on your etiquette that you select. In our case, we are going to take the Shadowrunner etiquette. It doesn't pay off as much in the early game, but it is quite useful in the later game. And then if we increase our charisma further, which, spoiler alert, we will, we're going to pick up more etiquette as well. One thing that we do need to do, additionally, we're going to focus on some ranged combat. And picking what weapon that you specialize in is great. It gives you special abilities, but it's not always the best course of action. We're gonna pick a single rank of a weapon right now. Actually, yeah, we don't necessarily need the additional weapon slot right now. We will take the level 1 shotgun ability to kneecap opponents. It's extremely useful because it prevents them from taking future actions on their turn. And then we're going to upgrade our dodge just to reduce our chance of being hit. So all in all, our character is sort of average at the moment, but they will get to specialize a little bit later on. Now, this is where we get to come up with our cool street name, our handle. Names like Half-Jack or Lady Z are given. I think Harebrained Schemes could have come up with some slightly better names on that one. Not sure what we're going to call this guy. Let's give him a name that no person in their right mind would ever walk onto the streets with. We're going to call him Tempus. And we start down and out. Your apartment, 3 o'clock in the morning. It's got 4 walls, a roof, and it's not on fire. Even the cockroaches have fled in search of better accommodations. It's not exactly a Shadowrunner's dream pad, but right now it's about all you have left. Running the Shadows is all about feast or famine. One day you're Nova Hot, working jobs that let you eat at 5-star restaurants. The next, you're here. This one's a famine for the ages. Slag and Fixer hasn't called, the money's run out, and then some. Sinless and free. A brief cut-in. Sinless means that you don't have a social identification number. It's like a combination social security number for those of you in the States, and basically just your government ID. If you don't have one, you don't exist. You're not a person, necessarily. Free to starve in the cracks of a society run by megacorps who just want your new yen. New yen being the currency of Shadowrun. Something needs to change, and soon. And with that, give me one moment here. We will get a little bit of time in on this. Hopefully. So it turns out that Shadowrun really doesn't like it if you alt-tab. Thank heaven for autosaves. So, here's where we are. Your apartment, 2054, it's 3 a.m. and you've got nowhere to go but down. Sounds pretty great, right? Hey look, there's us. We got some stuff we can look around at. Let's get started. Slip of paper with your bank balance, enough to cover you through the end of the week. Well, at least there's that. Your notebook, calendar, contacts, that kind of thing. Let's take a look at our contacts. Who do we know? Carter Detroit, a fixer, no response to messages. By the way, this list is sad and dried up. Dowd, runner, dead. Belton Nash, a fixer, missing since February. New Larry, as opposed to old Larry, I guess. Runner, dead. Sam Watts, runner. Question mark, probably in a gutter somewhere. Sangoma, runner, dead. Halfjack, dealer, retired, or dead. The list goes on, all either dead ends or just plain dead. So let's look at our calendar. What do we got? It's empty. There's nothing to do. Well, I love that too. I love all of that for me. New objective to answer my vid phone. Your vid phone rings, jarring you. Who's calling you at 3 in the morning? Oh, there's my computer. Did I interact with that first? Your computer. State of the art in 2050, broken in 2051. Easy enough. Let's answer our phone. Oh, it's Sam Watts. That was a name in our list. The screen leaps to life, making you squint against its brightness. The face on the screen is laughing. Sam Watts. Hey, buddy. Hope I didn't catch you at a bad time. He giggles. He's drunk again. Or worse. So we got options. We can go, I shouldn't have given you my comm code, you gonk. You're zoned, meaning he's high. Or, where have you been, Sam? I haven't heard from you in months. And we'll go with the obvious. You're zoned. Oh, don't bother with your side of the conversation. I'm not really here. Just one reason for this vid. Someone finally geeked me. I'm dead. I probably had it coming. Real shame. When you're an unsavory character like myself, you tend to associate with other unsavory characters who often partake in unsavory business. Like you, for example. So why am I dead? Who knows? Probably my fault. I wonder where you are right now. I bet you hit a big payday and you're living high on the hog somewhere. Some of us are born winners, and some of us are me. Mood. Hey, you remember that Renraku run? Renraku being one of the big 10 mega corporations in Shadowrun? When things went to hell and we lost Dowd? Or that makeshift saloon on the docks afterward? I really had your back that night, didn't I? Dowd. That's a name you haven't heard in a long time. He was in our contact list as a dead person. Oh no, it's flashback time. Cue the CCR. 3 years ago, a makeshift bar on the Seattle docks, the night Dowd went down. And we've got 3 people here. Sangoma, an urban shaman who proved her worth during a run against Fuchi last fall. She's the quiet type, an experienced runner. We're out in the open here, Tempus. Ask her if she's ready to bolt. Tell her the fixer owes us for the run and for Dowd. Or we ask if she's late for another appointment. I'm going to go with our fixer owes us. Your call. We can see as well, she appears to be an orc. She does not have horns, so therefore, she's most likely an orc and not a troll. Let's look at New Larry. Hi, New Larry. Looks like a dweeb. You've been running with New Larry for about 6 months now. He's a combat mage with a bad tattoo and a bad attitude. He knew Dowd almost as well as you did. Dowd. Never saw anybody die like that before. Idiot. He shakes his head. I hate this fragging city, Tempest. It's wet and the rain feels like acid and I want out of here. And tell him to shut up about the rain, tell him to wait for the money, or encourage him to do drugs. I think despite our mohawk, we're not going to encourage this dude to do drugs because that makes you unreliable on a job. So I'm going to tell him to shut up about the rain because this being Shadowrun, we are in Seattle. And it always rains in Seattle. And the rain is always acid. And now you've learned some Shadowrun lore for today. So, shut your screamer about the rain. We lost a man tonight. So, sorry. I'm just really ready to go home. Portland's way more my speed. And another thing about Shadowrun, there are a lot of loan words from Japanese in the lingo of Shadowrun. And the reason for that is because, much like most settings created in America in the 1980s, they were very, very terrified of the Japanese economic bubble and Japan sort of overtaking the American economy with regards to things like microcomputing and electronics and automobiles. And you see the impact of that in settings like Shadowrun and in even Cyberpunk 2077, or its tabletop precursor, Cyberpunk 2020. Sam. I don't know, Tempest. Sam is a good guy and can hold his own in a fight, but he's been hitting the bottle pretty good lately. Never on a run, so far, but he needs watching. He shakes his head. That run went sideways 9 ways to Sunday. Now the fixer's late. So we can ask him if he thinks it's a setup. We can, force that we think the guy should show up, or I can ask for his opinion. I'm gonna ask him if he thinks it's a setup. Yeah, it smells funny. Look at where he set the meeting. This was supposed to be a public place. Cut the dreck, Sam. Dreck being a loan word for shit. We both know why Dowd went down, and it wasn't the fixer or some other paranoid chip dream of yours. Sam smiles a toothy smile. I've been waiting for this all night. New Larry has something he wants to say, don't you, Larry? Go ahead and spill it. You were sloppy. Sloppy? You think I was sloppy? You've been twitchy all day, son. Look at your hands. They're shaking. And we have 3 things that we can confront Sam with regards to asking if he made a mistake. I don't think I'm going to lean on the alcoholism angle. I think I'm going to take... is that true, Sam? Miss a beat back there? No, Tempest. I didn't miss a beat. I was on my game the whole time. Remember, I was on point. Knew Larry was supposed to cover Dowd. Something dawns on him. He leans into New Larry, amused and dangerous. We were set up, and he knows it. Don't you, Larry? What was that call you made before we hit Renraku? How come you couldn't geek that guy before he unloaded on Dowd? I've seen you fling a lightning bolt, son. He should have been burnt toast before his gun cleared the holster. New Larry checks his watch, licks his lips, looks over your shoulder at the darkness. He's looking for someone, and it's not the fixer. Okay, I can see where this is going. You chummers are damaged. I'm out. So, we have 3 options. Did you keep us here long enough, Larry? Hands where I can see 'em, asshole. Or how much did they pay you to sell us out, Larry? I don't really care how much he was paid to sell us out. I mean, we've figured out that he sold us out. So, having him put his hands where we can see him just means his hands are in spellcasting range. I think we're going to go with, did you keep us here long enough, Larry? He stops and a smile appears on his face. Looks that way. Sorry, Tempest. I kind of like you. I just like money better. Sangoma says, we've got incoming. New Larry relaxes and throws you a dreck-eating grin. Looks like my new Renraku friends are finally here. They're going to take that hard drive off your corpse, buddy. Sam says, we should choose our friends more carefully, Tempest. I've got 3 options. At least we have each other, that guy was never my friend, or buy you a drink after this. I'm going to go with at least we have each other because I feel like I shouldn't be enabling his bad habits. You'll miss me when I'm gone. And this guy says, leave the mage, kill the others. And he shot me with a spell. That's no good. Don't like that. So we're now in turn-based combat. Each character on our team has an action pool. Spend actions on movement, attacks, or using spells and items. Once your team's turn is done, the enemy team goes blah, 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 blah. More tips. But now that it is our turn in combat, we are going to call the episode. So I'd like to thank everybody once again for coming out today, It's been a pleasure showing you guys Shadowrun. This LP is going to continue at a pretty decent clip. I'm thinking we're going to do uploads on Mondays and Fridays at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. And that said, we're going to get right back to it next episode. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to reach out to me in the comments, and I will be more than happy to get back to you. Thank you once again. And remember, Mr. Rogers would love you just the way you are, and so do I. Be good to each other.